Hi everyone, welcome to video number 2. I think I mentioned at the end of the last video that I'd really like you to have a pen or pencil ready with a piece of paper because I'd like you to draw your own triangles. If we were together in class, I'd start from scratch, but it's a little hard for me to build these triangles electronically while talking. Believe it or not, this would be one of those ways that's much easier if I had an old-fashioned chalkboard or whiteboard to draw the triangles, but I did figure out how to do them electronically, so I felt like that was super advanced. If anyone here is a fan of U.S. Representative Katie Porter from California, she's well known for bringing her whiteboard to hearings in Congress, and I feel like that would be me too. I'd be like, it's Professor Sugarman and her whiteboard, but nevertheless, I built these electronically. So here you go. Okay, so we're going to begin with understanding the concept of court hierarchy and understanding that all courts are not created equal, that there literally is a hierarchy of courts where some courts are, I don't want to necessarily say more important, but they have a different role than other courts. And the reason we have to do this is that we really cannot start our case law research without understanding the different court systems that are out there. And so we're going to draw and here have for you visually some of these court systems. Again, I don't want you to feel like you have to memorize all of this, but these concepts will become more familiar such that you'll start to know them pretty well throughout the semester. But don't feel like you have to, quiz yourself and memorize these at this point. Understanding the court systems will also help you understand the concept of jurisdiction and then understanding how to evaluate mandatory authority and persuasive authority. But we can't answer what mandatory and persuasive is until we understand the court hierarchy. Again, think back, big picture. We have 50 different states, and each state in it has its own court system. We also have a federal court system. That means minimally you have 51 jurisdictions, and then within each state is its own breakdown of how that state organizes its court system. So in this class, I will emphasize the Massachusetts court hierarchy and the federal court hierarchy, but I want you to understand that there's a hierarchy of courts in every other state. So I'll briefly mention a couple of others just so we can see what some of the naming similarity and differences are. But this structure, the idea that there are trial courts at the bottom, which are down here, and then appellate courts, and then at the very top is the highest level of appellate court. This is true for every state as we conduct our legal research. So that part is the same. So what I would like you to do on your triangles is maybe make 2 triangles or start with 1. And at the very bottom of your triangle, we're going to label those the trial court. The trial court is the lowest level court for any jurisdiction. And I use the word trial court is a really generic word. As we will see, different states name their courts something different. They're not all called just the trial court. You can see that throughout the United States. But generically speaking, they're all trial courts. And so the lowest level of any court system is the trial court. If you want, you can, and this is again a whiteboard moment, is you can literally type the words or write the words start here at the bottom. All court cases begin at the trial court level. If your client walks into the office and they're screaming mad, I got fired from my job, I want to sue my boss, and I want to go right to the U.S. Supreme Court. You might already be thinking, well, you can't start in the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Like that doesn't make sense. And you're right. We don't start cases at the highest level. We start cases down here at the lowest level at the trial court. So I've drawn these 2 triangles for you. Let me give you some of the names for the trial court. At the Massachusetts side, so we're talking about Massachusetts state courts only. Remember, federalism, just Massachusetts. We have, and this is so fun, we have 2 trial courts. We have both a superior court and we have district courts. You may have noticed this just by driving through town. You might see a courthouse that says Middlesex County Superior Court right next to a courthouse that says Lowell District Court. And you're thinking, well, I don't know which is which. They're actually both trial courts. The difference in Massachusetts is that cases that involve matters that are worth $50,000 or more can be brought in Superior Court. Civil cases that are less than $50,000 would be brought in District Court. There's also a difference between in criminal cases where a defendant is charged depending on the crime. Believe me, I don't need you to memorize that, but there are criminal cases in both District Court and Superior Court. In Massachusetts, our Superior Court system is organized by county. So we have a Superior Court for each county in the state. So there's a Middlesex Superior Court, Suffolk Superior Court, Essex Superior Court, Berkshire Superior Court, and so on and so forth for all the counties. Within each county, there are a number of district courts. For the most part, these courts are the same. They're equal. They're both trial courts. And the difference between them is what type of matter the case is. Some will go and be assigned to Superior Court, some in District Court. Aside from this class, I don't want you to get tripped up. There are a couple of procedural matters in Massachusetts where there is an appeal from district to superior. We're not going to research the nuances of that, but I did just want to make you aware of it. So if you're driving around town and you see Superior Court and you see District Court named after a town, these are the trial courts of Massachusetts. The District Court of Massachusetts also includes a number of specialty courts like the Land Court, Housing Court, Probate and Family Court, Juvenile. These are specialty courts that are still at that same trial court level, but the judges in the matters are highly specialized. So if you have, child custody hearings or probating a will, that would be at the Probate and Family Court, not in the generic District Court or Superior Court. Again, all at the lowest level trial court with that big Start Here button right here at Superior or District Court. Now, what is really interesting about the Superior District Court? We will, through this course, especially next semester, we will talk about how lawsuits begin at this level. If you're taking the class in litigation this semester or at another point, you will also be talking about how lawsuits begin. So this is the court where there is a trial. Remember we said trial court? The trials take place at these courthouses. Now, do you begin a case with a trial? Like you show up one day and you say, I'm suing for employment discrimination. Where's my trial? No, we have a lot of procedural steps to lead up to the trial, but cases begin at this level. The plaintiff sues the defendant and files all of the documents related to starting the lawsuit here at the trial court level. I'll ask you guys next week if anyone in this class has served on a jury. You likely served, if you were in Massachusetts, in District Court or Superior Court. So once a case gets to that trial court level, gets to that trial, the trial takes place here at this court. The trial takes place with one judge who sits and presides over the courtroom. The judge's job is to make sure that everybody is following courtroom decorum, the proper rules of evidence are followed, the right documents are introduced, the attorneys are following all the rules, and the attorneys present the case for both the plaintiff and the defendant. And then we ask a jury to render a decision in favor of the plaintiff or the defendant. There is something else called a bench trial, where there is no jury, and that single judge at the trial court level acts as the jury as well. But it's just up to that one person. That's legal also. But that's what happens at that trial court level. I just want to mention at the federal side, there are also federal trial courts. Now, just walk through this. If you need to rewind it, I won't say it a couple times because you'll be able to rewind it and hear me. But remember that we have a judicial system for every state, which means every state has trial courts, and we have a judicial system at the federal side. That means we also have federal trial courts. Now, the way the system is created is that there is at least one federal trial court in every state. And these courts are called the U.S. District Courts. There's at least one in every state. And so Massachusetts has one U.S. District Court, and it is called the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. The U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. Now, some states do have more than one federal trial court, and that is because they are very populous states and have that many more legal cases. Massachusetts, we just have one. I am sure you can guess some of the states that have more than one U.S. District Court in that state. California, Texas, Florida, New York, even Illinois. There's one district that sort of surrounds the Chicago area and then another district for the rest of the state. These are all at the same level. So the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts is a U.S. District Court, and it's at that same level as the U.S. District Court for the District of Hawaii, or the U.S. District Court for the District of Montana. Why do we have at least one in each state? Simply for geographic regions, it would be a huge burden to just set up only a handful of federal courts around the country. We want to make it convenient-ish for people to access justice. So at that trial court level, these are called the U.S. District Courts. Now you might be thinking, really, Professor Sugarman? There's state district courts and there's federal district courts? Yes, there are. So most of the time you'll have a chance to you'll just know, because you're working on your client's matter, is their matter in federal court or is their matter in state court? But if there's ever any confusion, look at the court documents and ask yourself, is this a state district court matter? In which case it'll say Commonwealth of Massachusetts on it. Or is it federal? And in which case the documents will say U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. Now, just to give you a couple of examples, the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts is known for some pretty high-profile cases. If you haven't seen the building, it's physically located in downtown Boston, right by the waterfront, right across from where they really built up the whole seaport area. It used to be a whole bunch of parking lots like a couple decades ago, and now there's all kinds of restaurants and nightlife. But the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts is in downtown Boston. So it is a federally owned building. It just happens to be located here in Massachusetts. Anyone think of some high-profile cases that took place there? I'll give you a hint. Whitey Bulger, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the marathon bomber, and even in the news again right now, these college admissions cheating scandal cases, also at the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. Just as an aside, how do we know if cases go to federal or state court? We have both. It actually comes back to that concept of jurisdiction. Which has jurisdiction, the federal court or the state court? I'm already finishing up another 15 minutes, so I'll just give you the answer now, and we'll pick up with the rest of the courts on PowerPoint number 3, or video number 3. To be in federal court, to have your case be heard and be brought for the federal court to have jurisdiction, if it is a civil case, so not a criminal matter, the citizens of the plaintiff and the defendant must be from 2 different states, and the value, the amount in controversy, must be over $75,000. That's pretty big. So so that's called diversity jurisdiction, citizens from 2 different states, an amount in controversy over $75,000. Or the case must involve a federal law. So big federal employment discrimination cases, those cases can also be brought in federal district court. Everything else, state court. I'll see you on video number 3.